It was a day I'll never forget, though I wish I could. I came home earlier than usual, carrying groceries and humming softly, thinking about the dinner I would cook for us. I had no idea that what awaited me would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the woman I trusted with my heart. I had always believed in trust. In us. In the quiet understanding that had formed over years of laughter, arguments, and shared dreams. My wife, Emma, was the woman I had built my world around. We shared a home, a life, and a bond that I thought was unbreakable. But as I entered the bedroom that afternoon, the scene before me was a devastating collision of reality and nightmare. Emma wasn't alone. There was another man, someone I didn't recognize, laughing, leaning close to her in ways I had only ever reserved for her. The moment froze in time. Groceries slipped from my hands, the sound of the plastic bags hitting the floor echoing like a gunshot in the room. My mind couldn't process it. My heart didn't know how to respond. I felt every emotion at once. Shock, betrayal, humiliation, anger, and heartbreak. But in that instant I made a decision. I would not yell. I would not cry. I would not beg or plead. I had to act with clarity, with calm, with a precision that mirrored the respect I still had for myself. The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted blindly, had crossed a line I couldn't forgive in ignorance. And yet, I knew that the reaction I chose now would define everything that came next. I took a step forward slowly, letting the weight of the moment sink in. I looked her in the eyes, and for the first time I saw something different: fear. Not for him, not for herself, but for the consequences that were about to unfold. And in that fear, I realized that my response could break her, not through anger, but through the undeniable clarity of truth, the quiet power of controlled reaction. I didn't speak at first. I simply stood there, letting the silence stretch, letting the reality of her actions settle. And then I began to speak, not to accuse but to reveal. Every detail I had noticed over time, every inconsistency, every lie she thought she had hidden. She couldn't argue. She couldn't deny. My calm presence, my unwavering gaze, made her realize that the world she thought she could manipulate had shifted, and I was no longer part of the illusion. Emma's face turned pale the moment she realized I wasn't leaving, that I had seen everything. The man next to her froze too, caught between shock and guilt. I could feel the tension in the room, the heavy silence that spoke louder than any words ever could. It was in that silence that I realized something crucial. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, in the spaces between words, in missed calls, in cold shoulders, and stolen glances. Over the years I had noticed little things, tiny signs I had brushed off, telling myself I was imagining them. But now, in this one unbearable moment, the truth hit me like a lightning strike. Every late night, every unexplained absence, every lie had been leading to this exact scene. My trust, my love, my years of commitment, they were all reduced to a tableau of deceit. I didn't react with anger. I didn't shout. I simply walked closer, observing them both, letting them feel the weight of what they had done. Emma's eyes welled up with tears, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of fear, fear of the consequences that were coming. And that's when I realized that my response could be more powerful than any scream, any confrontation. It could break her through realization, through the clarity of the truth she could no longer deny. I spoke slowly, my voice steady. I reminded her of the nights I stayed awake waiting, the times I supported her through challenges, the promises I had kept, and the trust one had given freely. I recounted details she had thought I hadn't noticed, patterns she assumed I ignored. Every word I spoke landed like a hammer, each one a piece of evidence she couldn't escape. And then came the twist she didn't see coming. I didn't call the man out. I didn't yell or humiliate her in front of anyone. I simply made it clear that everything had changed. Our life together, the future she assumed was hers to manipulate, was no longer hers to control. She could feel it in the way I held myself, in the calm determination in my eyes. The room was filled with tension, but it wasn't the kind of tension she had experienced before. It was the tension of knowing she had lost, that her betrayal had a price she couldn't negotiate. I left the room then, giving her a final glance, a mix of sorrow, disappointment, and undeniable strength. I walked away, but the impact of that moment lingered. I had not shouted, not begged, not wept. Yet, in that quiet, controlled response, I had broken her in a way no words could ever fully capture. The next few days were tense, but I didn't act rashly. I let the truth settle in, both in my mind and in Emma's. She realized that the security she had taken for granted, the trust she had toyed with, was gone. But she didn't yet understand the full impact of her actions. That's when I began to subtly reclaim the power, not with anger, but with clarity and observation. I made no dramatic confrontations. I didn't need to. I quietly gathered the evidence of her betrayal, the messages, the hidden meetings, the signs she thought I hadn't noticed. Each piece was a silent witness to her actions, each one preparing the stage for the ultimate revelation. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, not through humiliation, but through the undeniable exposure of truth. When I finally confronted her, it wasn't with a scream, a slap, or tears. I simply presented everything she had tried to hide. I laid it out clearly, calmly, so that she could see the full scope of her betrayal. Every secret she had kept, every lie she had told, was now visible in the stark light of reality. Her face drained of color, her breath caught in her throat, and for the first time, she realized that her actions had consequences she could not escape. But the true power of my response was in the calm control I maintained. I didn't humiliate her. I didn't seek revenge through public embarrassment. I let the truth speak for itself. And in that quiet, measured way, I had broken her. Not with anger, but with the undeniable reality of her betrayal. The man she had sought comfort with was irrelevant now. The shock wasn't about him, it was about her losing the life she thought she controlled. As I walked away from our home for the last time, I felt a strange mix of sorrow and relief. I had loved deeply, trusted fully, and yet I had survived the ultimate betrayal. The lesson was clear. Trust is fragile and betrayal has a price. Patience, observation, and calm decisiveness can be more powerful than any emotional outburst. And sometimes the most satisfying justice comes not from anger, but from the quiet revelation of truth. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to humiliate her in front of friends or family. I let the evidence, the truth, and the clarity of my response do the work. And in the end, that was enough. Emma learned painfully that betrayal has consequences, and I learned that strength is found not only in action but in restraint, in patience, and in seeing the truth through to its undeniable conclusion.